If you enjoyed the first release from developer Supergiant Games, 2011's Bastion, then go ahead and pull the trigger on their sophomore outing Transistor. Because while the two games differ on many levels, the same principles and core consistency remain.
See this? This is what the Camerata want our town to be.
Transistor is a prime example of a game that has mixed narrative and gameplay perfectly. One feeds the other, and the other feeds back in beautiful harmony. Set in the mysterious sci-fi world of Cloudbank, a place where the architecture, layout, and even sky can be changed on the people's whim, a woman named Red awakens to find her voice taken from her and a massive, glowing sword, the Transistor, sticking out from a man's chest before her. Immediately discovering the Transistor's many versatile functions, Red is thrust into an outbreak of something called the Process, and begins to make her way through the city, sword in tow, to find the people responsible for taking her voice and the man's murder, whose mind now rests within the Transistor, speaking to Red on her travels.
Glad you're taking this in stride.
And that's all the player is given at the start of Transistor. Voice gone, guy dead, big sword, process is bad news. You're dropped into the world knowing next to nothing, and Transistor leaves the rest for the player to decipher and interpret themselves. There are plot points and major events in the story that serve as the sort of static pillars every player will see, but how those events are interpreted, what everything around the player means and points to, it's all set up to let each individual player come to their own conclusions. Transistor gives just enough information about its world and its characters to spark the imagination of its players. What you see in it is up to you and how you think about it, and the possibilities are quite wide.
She wants to come along. We can use her.
Those same principles of interpretation, creative thinking, and discovery are present in the gameplay design as well. Players are given the tools for combat in the shape of the functions of the Transistor, and will experience the same encounters, enemies, and level design as everyone else, but it's entirely up to the player how to take advantage of them. Each function can serve three purposes. It can be used as an ability on its own, can be used to augment other abilities to change how they work, or they can be used as passive benefits that buff Red herself. If you can think of a combination of abilities, you can do it. Combine the magnetic pull ability with a long-range snipe for a reaching shot that pulls enemies towards you. Add explosives to drop while using your otherwise strictly defensive dash maneuver, or turn your active cloak ability into a passive benefit that activates after every kill. There are 16 functions in all, and players are limited by little more than their own imaginations. Yet another way Transistor facilitates unique encounters in its ingenious combat is the turn system, a mechanic that lets you at any time in battle change from real-time action gameplay to a more strategic, turn-based mode. Pause the action, assess what's around you, and plot an offense to do the most damage against your commonly overwhelming odds. The catch being, you can't use any of your functions for a little while afterwards, leaving you wide open for a counterattack. So, make it count.
Excuse us. Part of this.
This mechanic, combined with some particularly strong enemies and aggressive AI with teamwork skills, can make for intense encounters as the game goes on, and getting that perfect turn setup results in a beautifully gratifying press of the execute button. Supergiant Games made a name for themselves with Bastion, a game made a star for many reasons, but certainly not least for its music. With Transistor, Darren Korb, who composed both Bastion and Transistor, provides another atmospheric and hypnotizing score. But where Bastion's composition was bright and vibrant, Transistor's is dark and cerebral, filled with trailing guitar riffs, dreamlike strings, and staticky percussion, echoing through the abandoned city alleys and seaside boardwalks, backing up your fights in parks and city streets. Accompanying the score is a fair selection of lyrical compositions as well, complementing the narrative and atmosphere even more, and again mirroring the indirect storytelling present in every aspect of Transistor, giving yet another thing to think about when deciphering the story. Plus, I mean, come on, look how gorgeous this looks! High-res art and environments dotted with glistening sparkles and colored shadows is the perfect mood lighting for a thought-provoking and contemplative story. It's clear some time and effort went into showcasing some really special areas and moments too. What Transistor really is, though, is up to you. Whether you enjoy action games or strategic ones, you can bend Transistor's mechanics to your liking. You can tank through your enemies with defensive strength, taking them out one by one, or plan a ninja-like strike path through your foes, hitting critical points as you pass. And it can be about whatever you think it's about. It's all in how you take it. And the atmosphere set by the visuals and sounds will keep you entranced in the world long after the game is over, continuing to ponder the many mysteries Transistor offers. Your first run through the story will take about 6 hours, but that's not where Transistor ends. On top of New Game Plus are difficulty mods, a challenging set of combat tests that'll interrogate your understanding of both the functions and the enemies, and of course, the altogether experimentation-based gameplay, making for awesome replayability. At the time of writing, I'm on my 4th go-around, and if you're anything like me, immersing yourself in the world, making guesses at and deciphering the mysteries of Cloudbank and the people in it, is enough on its own to keep going. Transistor shares many things with Bastion. Core gameplay mechanics that can be customized into oblivion, tons of replay value, a story set in a far-off foreign world, and the perfect harmony shared between the narrative and the gameplay. The weighted favoring of one or the other isn't present in Transistor. The two sides are the same thing here. It's one experience. And it's an experience that, indeed, just like Bastion, I won't soon forget.
We all become